Welcome everybody to the Foreclosures Daily webinar. I am Nancy Wallace-Laabs and I am joined by my wonderful daughter, Kelcie Leka, and together we are Money Makin Mamas. So we're very excited about tonight's webinar topic, and I'm going to get to that in a second because as many of you might know about Kelcie's story, she's kind of a new investor in the last maybe a couple years now. So what I'm going over tonight is exactly what I taught my own daughter. But before we get to the presentation, let's talk about ForeclosuresDaily.com, they're so kind enough to have us on as helping us with these webinars. So they are your trusted nationwide real estate lead partner. We love working with their leads. They do nationwide research and they connect investors, realtors, attorneys, first-time buyers with high quality leads. And I personally have been a customer of theirs since 2018. They're an industry leader in the business since 2004. So they've been around a few years, right? They've become the internet's top destination for detailed, timely real estate information, and it's expertise that you can trust, that they have a commitment to excellence that ensures you receive the most accurate and up-to-date data available. And how are they different? Well, the Foreclosures Daily Advantage is what I call it. Real estate that's focused on data. Now, I've used other list sources and they don't, you don't want to buy a lead source or have a list service and they don't provide leads. So their lists come with real estate specific information, and depending on the type of list you get. So I specialize in pre-probate and the divorce and the tax. So I get them daily, weekly, or monthly. So there's property value attached. So it's very easy when you want to go and segment. And if you go back and watch some of my other videos, I talk about how I segment the list, because there's property values that range from like $100 all the way up into the millions, right? So if you're a realtor, you can list properties in the millions, or if you want to get into that luxury market. They're specialized for real estate. Unlike reports from other companies, their data is farmed exclusively for the real estate market, and they prioritize delivering up-to-date targeted information to keep you ahead. Now, what kind of lists do they have? Oh my gosh. You could and we primarily, for a lead source, that's what we use. Is I do like driving for dollars. I mean, because I'm out and about, and so I do drive for dollars. But probate and pre-probate, which is what I like to specialize in, and that kind of takes a little bit of finesse to talk with people who have recently passed away. And I'm fortunate because in Texas, we can buy and sell properties without actually having to go through the probate process. So I know in Florida, you do have to go through probate. However, if you are contacting the families ahead of time, you can still assist them with that process. And then there's absentee owners. There's the divorce list, which is what we did last week. And if you missed that one, go back. And we have actually a divorce toolkit if you missed that webinar. Distressed, code violations. This is great. So when I actually bought a property where, it was overgrown and they had a lot of liens because the city had they had so many code violations. There's eviction lists, the inheritance list, auctions, tax lates, Liz Pendays, and cash buyers. I mean, you can just build your whole marketing and how you're going to get leads and invest or list properties just by using Foreclosures Daily's leads. They're great leads. Now, when you become a customer of Foreclosures Daily, they're just not selling you a bunch of names. They want you to be successful. I want you to be successful. So that's why we kind of put on these webinars too. So kind of tie it in like, well, how do you market? And tonight we're going to talk about the ABCs of real estate investing. But when you become a client of ForeclosuresDaily.com, you also get training, so to speak, or tools. They have a toolbox. I like to call it the toolbox. And they have companies like Marketing by Hand, which they're a really cool company. They do these really nice, I have one here where they write it out for you, a card. It looks like a birthday invitation or wedding invitation. You can sign up. They have partnerships with ringless voicemails. They have sample letters and sample website creation companies you can work with, private money lenders. You can sign up, like if you don't want to answer the call, you can sign up to have live operators do it. So make it so that, it's not just buying some names. Now, I buy names and I've done all of this. So since I've been doing it for a while, I have my own system in place, but I use a lot of the tools that Foreclosures Daily provides. And here's just an example of what marketing by hand looks like. Wendy was on a few months ago talking about their company, and it's very cool. So if you're a one-person shop and you just, you can upload the list to them. They have somebody handwriting it. You can see the nice handwriting here, and you can pick different packages to go with, and it's like just kind of a done for you way to market to the leads. And they could do any lead list that you want to do. So when you become a client of Foreclosures Daily, you get some bonuses, right? So we talked about this, or we didn't talk about it, but you get a 6-step mailing campaign and a follow-up strategy, ready-to-use phone scripts, which is nice if you're brand new, pre-written email templates to reach out to attorneys. They can show you professionally designed postcards and letters. And yours truly wrote a book called Winning Deals and Heels. I usually have a copy. I think I do. Oh, yeah. Right behind me here. Let me grab one. Woo! Before everything falls down. So you'll get a copy of my best-selling book, Winning Deals and Heels. Well, there we go. And you'll get exclusive links for discounted mail rates, reduced skip tracing, webinar training like we're doing tonight. And then when you sign up, I did a special pre-probate training video for Foreclosures Daily, and they send that right on over to you. And they always have a great deal. So you cannot beat the prices, right? So what you'll want to do is it's a webinar, they have webinar prices, and you'll want to reach out to your representative, but you can literally get a year's worth of leads for under $2,000. And I know you can't do that with Zillow and any other place. And the thing is, just to give you an idea, so on the leads that I market to, so it takes about 100 to maybe 150 leads from Foreclosures Daily, and I'm averaging around $5,000 profit, money that I'm making. Now, I do pay for my marketing, things like that. But you can mix and match counties. So if you sign up for probates or pre-probates, inheritance, divorce, so basically you buy one, you get one. And you can see here the prices. So if you just you just go, well, I'm just going to do it for 3 months. Well, you know what? That doesn't really give it enough time. 3 months is like when you really start kicking in and you kind of know what you're doing and knowing how to talk to sellers and getting your phone to ring. And, when you mail out one letter, it doesn't mean you're going to get a phone call. You might have to do a little follow-up. So I always tell people at least go for the 26 weeks, right? Make it worth your while. But if you go for the 52 weeks, which is what I did, I just went all in. So you get one county and then you can buy the next one for 50% off. Now, if you're in Florida and you want the foreclosure list, then you can buy the foreclosure list for like $4.79 for 3 months. But you can see the more time that you buy, the less overtime it costs you. So what is that? So you're saving some money. And then if you wanted to, you could just do a la carte, such as the absentee, free and clear, and it goes by county. So you can say, well, I want this county, that county. And what I'll do is I'll like market, and then as I've grown, I add counties. So when I first started off, I just did 2 or 3. Now I do I think it's 7. And then when Kelcie joined me, we did a couple more, and we go like all over. I mean, I'm not out in West Texas yet, but could be, but also nationwide. So remember that. Now let's dive deeper into what we're doing here tonight as far as our presentation. So tonight's topic is the ABCs of real estate investing. So if you've been investing, I hope that you do learn something, because I'm not going to just give you the typical oh, go find a property, blah, 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 because I feel like there's some things that you have to kind of psychologically get ready for real estate investing, and we're going to talk about that. And so I just want to say a little bit about my daughter Kelcie Leka and Money Makin Mamas. And so she does a lot of she does all of our social media. We have a podcast, and she does all the editing and things like that. And she has 2 little. She has my 2 little favorite people in the entire world, my little grandbabies. So when we decided to do this, so tonight's episode, she's probably not going to say a whole lot, because she's like, Mom, this is where I'm at. I'm learning all this stuff. So she might pipe in, but probably not tonight. But we are real estate investors, coaches, educators, helping families build wealth through off-market properties. So we talk about real strategies, real stories, and real results. Now, the objective of tonight's webinar is to walk you through what I think are the four key steps to real estate investing so you can begin designing your own personal action plan, because it's a journey, right? What works for me didn't work for Kelcie. What works for Kelcie didn't work for me. So, but we came together on a plan that would work for both of us, right? So in this video, in this webinar, you're going to learn the foundations of money mindset, how to find profitable leads, which Foreclosures Daily is right there, how to quickly analyze a deal, and creative funding strategies. And by the end of this, you're going to have a simple worksheet to help you outline your personal action plan for the first or next deal. Now, our plan was to actually have that worksheet just right there attached. So, but if we don't, we're going to email that out to you tomorrow. So don't worry, you'll get that. So again, my name's Nancy Wallace-Laabs Kelcie Leka. You want to just say hi, Kelcie?
Yeah, hi. I think you kind of introduced me, but I started investing when I wanted to stay more with my kids and quit my full-time job. And I've always been on the sidelines painting cabinets in the garage, but now I'm investing and learning lots along the way as well.
Yeah, so I want to tell a story about her. She got her first kind of negative seller call the other day, and it was actually a text. And so it cracked me up because the seller said, oh, he didn't even put his property address. He just said, oh, well, if you want to buy my house, it's $850,000 or else, and then he had some curse words along that. And I'm like, okay, well, dude, it would have been nice if you had, because he wanted us to take him off the list or buy his house for $850,000. And we only market to houses that have a value up to three. So, so
Yeah.
she was like, Mom, do people talk like this? I go, yes, they do.
Well, I was thankful I had you, so.
So, all right, so let's get into it. So this is where you need to take notes. You can watch the replay. Stephen will get that out for you. But the ABCs of real estate investing, the 4 steps to finding and funding real estate deals, and presented by yours truly tonight. And we partner with ForeclosuresDaily.com, and we're so thankful for them for having us on as for this webinar. All right, so step 1, money mindset. So I'm a big person on when I start working with people in real estate investing. The funny thing, I don't know if it's so funny, but is that if you can't talk about money or you have shame around money, it's hard to be an investor or a good investor, because you have to be able to talk about money. So when I was growing up, we didn't talk about money. We didn't, so I didn't really, it wasn't until I was in my, 20s that I even started learning how to balance a checkbook. So it was just something that we never talked about. So when you are talking about, investing in real estate, you have to be able to comfortably talk about money. And there's going to be 3 things you need to do before you make your first offer. And we're going to talk about avoiding analysis paralysis, because you can analyze and go look at deals and never pull the trigger because you're just so, fear. And then shifting from fear to focused action. So before you start making offers, first of all, you got to get clear on why you're even doing this, right? Why are you investing? I mean, maybe you just want extra income. Maybe you just want to flip houses because you watched a lot of HGTV like I did. Maybe you want freedom from daycare costs like Kelcie did. Maybe you want to build a legacy for your children. Whatever that is, that's part of the action plan that we gave you, is like putting down your why. What kind of deal are you looking for? Rentals, flip, wholesale? Because what I see happening with people when they first enter into real estate investing is they get overwhelmed. They've watched about 50 YouTube videos about how to invest in real estate. From wholesaling to owner financing to creative financing to long-term rentals to short-term, and they get confused, right? It's like, oh, I want to do it all. So what I say, and I'm going to kind of quote my friend Ken Carsini, who he wrote a book called Profit Like a Pro, and he started out and he kind of explained it like you start at one brick at a time and you build your education. So I started out with single family properties, but that was, back in 2006. And so over the years, I've learned a lot of different investing strategies, but when I'm working with people for the very first time, I'm like, wait, let's just talk about what your personal goals are and what kind of investment property, because it'll make a difference on your marketing. And then a basic understanding of the numbers. So I have ROI, return on investment, ARV, after repair value, cash flow basis. So you have to have some kind of knowledge about, okay, well, what is the property worth? Like after repair value is simply When the property is all fixed up, what's the highest amount that it can sell for? You don't need to be a math genius. I'm not, but you do need to know, if I put X dollars into this property, what is my return, which is going to be your return on investment. And then you have to have the willingness to have money conversations with sellers, lenders, contractors, and even yourself. This is where mindset comes in. Money is just the tool, and if you avoid it, you can't grow. So the analysis paralysis and how it shows up, okay, when I see this with folks, and I think, Kelcie, you could probably relate to this too, because it was kind of one of the reasons why you kind of hesitated, but looking at too many deals but never making an offer. And I mean, you can drive around and look and market and you just never make an offer. And I'm saying make an offer to the seller. I make offers all the time. A seller calls me, like even the guy, if he had called me and he said, oh, I wanted 850, I would like get on my computer, find out what the property address was and kind of just have a little conversation with him. And then I would just say, well, you know what? I can't give you 850. Well, what about 250, right? Okay, we're completely $600,000 apart, but I'm still taking action, right? And people that are constantly searching for the perfect property or waiting for the perfect market, there's no such thing. I mean, the market shifts. That's why they call it real estate investing. You don't want to speculate, right? You want to educate yourself. But you can over-research every little detail instead of focusing on the big picture of cash flow, repairs, location. So what I tell people is, when you start investing, they'll say, well, where should I look? Well, first let's go to, we have a heat map that we use, and we can say, okay, what area do you live in? So I kind of start with that zip code, wherever they live in, and then if the market, like in our particular zip code, it's hard. I mean, it's tough. It's like it's not even happening right now to invest in our own backyard. So we go to secondary markets. So you might not be able to invest in your own backyard, but I can guarantee you that there will be areas within a 2-hour radius that there will be places that you can find deals. And then fear of making a mistake. So you do nothing and that feels safer for you. So the first thing you have to do is reframe, right? The first deal doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to get done. So if you make no progress, okay, if you're striving for the perfect deal, it's just not going to happen, right? Because you have to, I've made mistakes over the year, but when you have the right education and the right person guiding you, you minimize those types of repairs where you're not mistakes, so that you're not losing tons of money, if at all. I mean, the goal is not to lose money, it's to make money. So why is talking about money a non-negotiable thing? Well, first of all, don't you think sellers expect you to negotiate a price? So let's just take the guy that wanted the $850,000 property. Yeah, I'm not going to pay $850,000, but what if I was just too scared to even talk to him about it? I mean, he was a little salty, if you will, just from his text message, but he didn't really give me any way to like look at, okay, the property address or things like that. But, most people are going to expect if you come on as a real estate investor, or let's talk about if you're a realtor and you're trying to list properties, and there's a whole thing, I'm not going to talk about commissions, but, they're going to ask you about, well, how are you going to get paid and all that. So you have to have some negotiation skills, and that means talking about money. And how about a contractor? So are you just going to, if a contractor says that's $10,000 to fix that, hole in your wall, are you going to go, okay? So not only do you have to know what the repair cost should be, but also negotiating, say, hey, you know what? I only have $2,000. Can you do it for $2,000? So you have to feel comfortable and confident about talking about money. And then lenders expect you to understand, your return on your investment and also talking about money. So let's just go back to the shame thing. Like if you're someone or you're in a relationship with someone who has some spending habits, they have a huge credit card debt, or they don't pay their bills on time. It's better to know that now, because if you don't have to have perfect credit to go buy a real estate investment deal, but if you want to use a private money lender or you want to get a loan, I mean, you're going to have to pay your bills, right? And so they're going to look at your debt to income ratio. So it gives you an opportunity to have a discussion about it. And if you avoid money conversations, you know what? You're going to end up avoiding opportunities. So I want you to shift your mindset. Shift your mindset. So think about this. So do you ever say this to yourself? So Kelsey, I'm just going to pick on you for because you're right here, but
All right.
I'm not good with numbers. I don't deserve wealth. Don't you think that that's some things that we've heard moms say, right? That
Yeah.
they don't deserve it. And so that creates the feeling of fear, or they just won't do it because they don't feel like they're worthy of it, which creates actions, not making offers. So in really non-action, which creates results for no deals. So if you're sitting there and saying, well, I'm not good with numbers, like I say all the time, but I did make a video the other day and I say all the time, you know what? I'm just not good with tech. Well, you know what? I was doing this thing the other day and I'm getting better at tech. So, and I wouldn't say that I'm not a CPA, but I know how to fill out a basic, like, okay, the money that I could make off this property, I can get this much rent, or I can flip it for this, it's going to cost this. So I can do the numbers, right? I'm not going to be a CPA on the numbers. But if I shift my thought, money is a tool, right? Money gets us, if you're able to talk about money in a negotiation with a seller, and you can learn how to use money to your advantage, and you shift your feelings now, okay? So now you're confident, like, oh, okay, money's a tool. It's not something that I have to be afraid of. It's not something I can say I don't understand. It's a tool to help me build wealth. Then that helps you to make actions like making offers and negotiating, and that will result in closed deals. So if you're marketing to your foreclosures daily lead list, let's say the probate, so I market, I talk to sellers, I negotiate, and I close deals. And that's what I do. And do I know how to do it today? Well, you know what? Sometimes a seller will trip me up, but I feel confident that I'm talking because it's about numbers. So if you think about money as a tool. Now, tools and tips for talking about money. Well, here are some simple phrases. So I have I call them the go-to scripts, so you're not caught off guard. But think about this. So on sellers, because most of the time the properties that I'm looking at and that I'm buying as an investor are distressed. There's like a lot of repairs, or there's something wrong with the property. And so if a seller wants top dollar, say, well, given the condition and repairs needed, I can offer you X dollars. Does that work for you? And that's very simple. It's non-threatening. And to a contractor, I say, I'm much better at talking to contractors over the years after you've been taken a couple times, but my budget for this repair is X. Can you work within that? And so if they want the job, they'll work with you, right? Know your numbers, even just two. So cash flow, cash flow just means, okay, it's going to cost X number of dollars to, for utilities and property taxes and insurance and my mortgage. And this is how much income I'm going to make, whether it's a long-term rental or a short-term rental. And you just subtract how much income from your expenses, and that's your cash flow. It's very easy. Maximum allowable offer. You'll hear that a lot when you're as an investor. So that's the ARV, after repair value, times 70% minus repairs. And that comes to the MAO. You'll hear a lot of wholesalers talking about that. And we actually do another video about that. And then so you want to reframe your money. Instead of thinking, I don't want to talk about money because I don't understand it, say, talking about money is how I create opportunities for my family. So doesn't that, see, that makes you feel good, right? Because you're doing it for your family, right? So tools and tips for talking about money. So start small. Even discussing $500 option fee or $5,000 partnership deal gets you comfortable. Accountability. Share your numbers with a trusted peer or mentor to normalize the conversation. So in our coaching program, the very first thing we do is we have money mindset talks with our clients, right? Because number one, we want to make sure that they're on the same page of knowing that they're going to need to talk about money, and also to kind of help them with any fears that might be stopping them, right? So you have to have clarity, confidence, and conversations, and these are the real starting points for you. And if you can get clear on what you want, learn the basic numbers, and practice talking about money, you're already ahead of so many beginners. And just before I go into the next where to find deals, I did a video the other day about, is it a good time to invest? And as I was doing my research, I found out that the number of investors that go belly up, 87 to 90% of first-time investors on their first deal lose money. So you don't want to be one of those people. And I didn't dig into it, but I'm guessing that maybe they didn't know how to do their numbers and they didn't know how to talk about the money. But let's talk about where to find the deals, because that's what you really came for, right? On the ABCs of investing. So number one, the MLS. I mean, I'm a realtor. I go there. Do I buy deals off of the MLS? Hardly ever. I mean, I think maybe in my whole time, maybe one or two times. But what I use the MLS for is I use it to comp out to see an area, what the average price of a house is selling for. And of course, off-market properties are where you're going to make your money. And off-market properties are properties that you're going to get when you market to, like with Foreclosures Daily. So I had mentioned before that I market to pre-probate. So the leads that I get every week, those are people that passed away a couple weeks. When I get the list on Wednesday, the people literally passed away maybe a week or two before the date I got the list. They haven't gone through probate. So I have a certain way I market to those, and I've been marketing to those leads since 2018, and they're great, great leads. The divorce leads, same thing. It's a way to market, and it's lists that not very many people want to go to because of the situation. Driving for dollars and networking and wholesalers is another way to find off-market properties, because when you find an off-market property and you're able to negotiate the price, you make your money when you buy the property. So you'll hear investors talk about when you buy it right, that's how you make the money. And then we're going to talk about how to spot a property worth pursuing. And I'm going to teach you like how to just, kind of in 5 minutes, whether you should even continue working with this property or not. So there's three pillars, I call them, of finding deals. So one, you have to know your market. So as I said, I use the pre-probate and I go into specific counties, and within those counties, I know the zip codes and what the average price of a property sells for. The reason that I do that, and it does not take a long time to learn this information. I mean, if you spent like 5-10 minutes a day, like, right, Kelsey, you spend a few minutes a day and you learn the market, right? You learn your area that you're investing in. The sales price, how long it takes days on market, how long to sell, the vacancy rates, and income potential. The reason that's important is when your phone rings, and it will, when you do your marketing, I've bought deals literally over the phone, sight unseen, because I was able to negotiate the price over the phone with the seller, and because I knew the market, I was able to get it under contract. Now, I still did my due diligence and everything, but just on the phone call alone, I was able to acquire enough information about the property, and I knew the property value, so I could make an offer that was good for me. Then I get it under contract, and then I do my due diligence. You want to leverage the right lead sources. And I keep harping on, not harping, sorry, Stephen, but I keep talking about ForeclosuresDaily.com. And the reason I do that, I told you that I've been a client of theirs since 2018. Prior to that, I had purchased other other leads from other list companies. And so if you've ever heard me talk about this before, and I would be getting these names of people, and they would have art, and they would have guns, and they would have coin collections. And you know what? That's all great, but that's not what I do, right? So then I felt like I was spending my time, because I'm a resource, trying to help them find somebody that could help them evaluate their antique collection or their art collection or whatever. But they didn't have real estate. So that didn't work for me. So I've used several list companies over the years. And so Foreclosures Daily, and I can tell you this, since 2018, since I've been using them, every single lead that I've ever had with them always has real estate. Okay, there you go. And then driving for dollars. That's simply like I'm out and about, Kelsey's out and about, we see a distressed property, and we write down the property address. We go home, we look it up, and we send them a card. And then networking. Now, you just go, well, networking, what kind of networking? Well, tomorrow I'm going to a networking event that has to do with realtors and title companies, because realtors sometimes know about off-market deals that are coming. So I want them to know that, hey, I'm someone that buys off-market deals. And I have a simple system. I commit to reviewing X number of deals every week. And so I don't do the same number every week, but I probably look at anywhere from 10 to 15 deals every week between Kelsey and I, right? And when I say that, because I know how to look at them super fast, and I'm on lists for wholesalers and that kind of thing. We do simple. I mean, we're simple. We have a spreadsheet that we use to keep track of our leads and who we need to follow up and things like that. I do have a CRM, but I don't use it for that. I use it for my other things. And then follow-up deals often come from the second or third conversation, not the first. It's pretty rare. I have bought properties the first time around talking to someone, but usually you have to talk with them, go see the property, and then maybe do a follow-up. So usually it's like the second or third time I'm able to get it under contract. So common mistakes. Now, Kelsey, you could probably relate to this because when she first started and she would point out a deal, or she'd go on her and her husband would go on Zillow and go, well, what about this house? Or what about that house? And it looks nice. And I was like, okay, thinking every deal is a good deal just because it's cheap doesn't make it a deal. So you have to rely on the MLS and ignoring off-market properties. So they only look on the MLS, which is what they were doing, and they were cracking me up. Failing to follow up with sellers and leaving money on the table. So this goes back to negotiation, right? Roofing is a big thing right now. So when you buy a house and if the roof needs to be repaired, I've run into many a seller who has filed a claim on the roof. They got the check and they never fixed the roof. And that's something that you might not know right away. So you have to, that's one of the due diligence things I do now, because when I try to get insurance on my properties, as soon as I get a quote as soon as I get it under contract, because insurance being so expensive right now, but also it's kind of a fail safe, because if they did file a claim on the roof and they got the money and they didn't fix it, then I go right back to them and I negotiate, hey, you already got this money, and so we're going to lower the offer by $15,000 because now I have to put the roof on, or whatever cost it is. Not filtering quickly and wasting hours on properties that never had a chance. So I literally worked with a guy and he had an awesome deal. Like, I should have just bought it out from underneath him, but I'm not that way. And he was one of our coaching students, and he brought this deal, and it was a smoking deal in an appreciating area. It was a duplex. And he sat on it and sat on it, and I ran the numbers 2 or 3 times, and I said, you need to go and make an offer. You need to go make an offer. And he didn't do it. And so what ended up happening is the people that bought it, they ended up renovating it and selling it, and they made $250,000. So he was like, yeah, kicking himself, right? But so you have to reframe what you're doing on your marketing. So you don't need 1,000 leads. You need one good deal, and that comes from consistent action. So you have to get your list. So that's why I was saying earlier about don't just get like 3 months, if you're going to go in, right? And I know sometimes you're like, oh, well, the cost and everything. You know what? The cost of the list is like nominal. The most expensive part of doing foreclosures daily is the first class stamp. But depending on the list you do and the number that you get, so sometimes I've done a postcard. So you can get postcards printed for fairly cheap and mailed out cheap. And I've used both. I use these little cards, these blank note cards. I get them right off of Amazon. And I have a mom, not my mom. Joe thought my mom was doing it. I was like, no, it's not my mom. It's a mom in my neighborhood. And she writes the cards for Kelsey and I. And then Kelsey and I, we take turns answering the calls. I take most of them right now because she's still, getting her mindset right about that. Right, Kelsey?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so here's my tips for finding deals. Use a 5-minute filter, and you have to ask some questions. So first of all, is this in my target market area criteria price? So somebody sent me a deal the other day, and it was in Waco, Texas. And Waco, I don't know if you all know, but that's where Joanna and Chip Gaines, I think that's their last name, the Magnolia home or whatever. That's where they do a lot of flipping and a lot of, carrying on or whatever. And Waco is not very close to DFW. And I also know that it's heavily, has a lot of short-term rentals down there. Anyway, so it wasn't even in my market. So I passed on it. My criteria is 3-bedroom or 4, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, no pool, corner lot. I prefer single-story homes, right? So if I get a 6-bedroom house out in the country, that's not going to be my criteria. That's not going to be what I call my buy box. And then I also want to find out, is there clear signs of distress or motivation? So when the phone rings, the seller, the first question they ask is, how'd you get my name? So you have to say, well, I market in this area to buy houses. I'm an investor. And so they'll talk about the house, and then some of the questions that I ask is like, oh, well, when was the last time there were any updates in the house, right? Especially if it's an older house. And then they'll tell you, oh, we renovated the kitchen, or we did this or that. So in my mind, I already know, like if it's a 1950 build and they didn't upgrade the electrical, I'll ask them if the roof has been replaced. So I'll just ask them about the 5 biggest repair items: the AC, the electrical, the plumbing, the roof, and the foundation. On my lead tracking, I keep it simple but consistent, even an Excel sheet. And that's what we do. We use an Excel sheet. When I download my list from Foreclosures Daily, I just, it's in an Excel spreadsheet. And then we kind of mark the ones. We have a little color coding thing that we do when the sellers call and what we need to do. And then we have scripts for sellers. We don't overcomplicate it. We just say, I saw you might be interested in selling your property at, and would you be open to discussing an offer? My go-to line is, I'm interested in the property at 123 Main Street. If you're interested in selling, please call me. And I use that with land. I use it with condos. I use it with multifamily. I use the same kind of script. So my reason for using these little cards is to get people to call, to get them to open it. And then I want to partner with people who already have leads, which is going to be your wholesalers. So you need to get on some lists of wholesalers, like get on as many wholesaler lists as you can. And the reason, not that you're going to be buying from them, but because you can see where are they finding the deals. And then we're going to have to talk about mindset, because you'll see that that's kind of a theme of how I roll. So I hear this all the time. There aren't enough deals. Where do you find the deals? There's no good deals. Well, they're everywhere. They're everywhere. You just have to know how to find them and how to negotiate. So, but when you feel like there's no deals out there, and maybe there's no deals in your backyard. Remember I said where we live, we're not buying deals in our own backyard because it's just the housing prices are still very, very high. But it gives you that feeling of frustration. Why am I doing this? I'm spending this money on the leads. So then you stop looking and you lose momentum. And that's why I'm saying, like, give it at least 6 months if you go with Foreclosures Daily and be consistent in sending out the leads. Because, if you don't take any action, you're not going to get any deals. I mean, that's as easy as that. So deals are everywhere when I know where to look and I stay consistent. So again, we use a heat map. What we do is we focus on certain zip codes where we know that the property value is under 300,000, 3-bedroom, 2-bath. That's what I'm looking for. And the deals don't come from luck. Now, they don't come from luck. They come from systems. So pick your market, use consistent lead sources, and filter fast so you can spend your energy on properties that matter. Now let's get into the deal analysis, right? So 5 minutes to filter to see if this is going to be a deal. I do use the ARV times 70% minus repairs to a certain degree. Depending on where the property is, I might do 80% or I might do 90%. So I'm not locked in 100% to that 70%, but I use it as a guide. That's where I start, okay? And then I focus only on one type of deal. Now, since I've been investing for a long time, my go-to is single family homes, but I also buy land, and we are looking at small multifamily. But when I first started out, and what I would say to you is, single family homes is, for me, I think that's the best option because you learn everything about that. Land is a little bit different because, you have to have a plan, like what are you going to do with it? Because it doesn't make any money. And avoid chasing time wasters. So like let's just say the guy that wanted $850,000 and he had given me his address, I would have probably had a 2-second call with him. But, he wants too much money. So if you have a seller that they just want too much money, you just need to move on and then maybe circle back to them. So the 3 principles of my quick analysis is, number 1, you have to know your numbers, right? So if you don't know your numbers, then you're going to spend a lot of time trying to figure out, okay, well, is this a deal? What do houses sell for? But if you're already prepared and you're already looking, 5 to 10 minutes a day, even if you're using Zillow, right, or Realtor.com or Reddit, just to get familiar, like pick a zip code. It could be in Texas, it could be in Florida, it could be in Ohio, and just look at, most of those places have a search button that you could do listings active and listings for sale, and you can get an idea of what are things selling for. And then decide your rehab budget. So you should know, we talked about money, but you need to know how much money can you spend, right? So unless you're going to borrow, so let's say we find a house that's $200,000 and it needs $50,000 in repairs. So we could find the money like a hard money lender, right? We could do that. But most of the time, you're not going to get your deal funded 100% of the time. So what is what's your liquidity? And we're going to talk about that in the last section here about funding. Stick to your buy box. So don't be all over the board. Okay, one day you're going to be into multifamily, and the next day you're into land, and the next day you want to buy condos. Stick to one strategy for a while and learn that. Like, remember the bricks. Learn the strategy and then build on it, build on it. Use a simple formula to start off with, like, the ARV, which is after repair value. What is the property worth when it's all fixed up? Times 70% minus repairs, and it equals that maximum allowable offer. And I know people who sit at their computers all day long and that's all they do. They just do the MAO, 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 and they're just hoping somebody gets it, right? They just stick to that. So you can do that as well. You also want to look at rent to price ratio. So let's say that you buy that. Let's talk about that $200,000 house that we were buying. The 1% rule. Okay, so if I buy a house that for $200,000, I should be able to rent it for at least $2,000. That's where that number comes from. So again, when you're buying properties, and what that kind of speaks to is how much money are you going to make on the property? How much money will the property generate every month? And it could be for a short-term rental as well. So you could find out from AirDNA how much money will this property make. And you want to estimate fast. So 80% of your deals are not going to work, and that's okay. You just have to find the one. You don't have to analyze forever, and filter quickly and move on, right? Because that's where you get stuck with that analysis paralysis. And common mistakes that I see beginners make is spending hours and hours and hours analyzing properties. Kelsey, can you relate to that? She was
Yes,
spending
I
way too much
can.
time, yeah. And using hope numbers instead of conservative estimates. I have a couple stories that I could tell right here, but you don't want to hope that you can sell it for 10, 15, 20,000 more than you put into it, right? So as investors, we need to know, okay, this is our budget. This is how much, let's say you wanted to flip the house, but you went over budget and now you try to sell the house for more than you went over, and you're hoping. So whenever you start saying hope to yourself, move on. Ignoring repair costs or underestimating them. Reframe. Your first filter is about saying no fast and not chasing every maybe. And I think newer investors, that's where they get stuck, because they just try and make that deal happen. And it's almost like they're taking okay, I'm going to make this analogy, a round peg in a square hole, or vice versa. So you know what? I used to listen to this guy. His name is escaping me. He's from like Australia, but he said the next deal is always around the corner. So here's my tools and tips for you that you need to have a repair cost cheat sheet, and they're all over the internet. We have one on our website as well, but for the BRRRR strategy. But you want to get an idea of what rehabs cost, right? Rent comps, if you're not a realtor or don't have access to a realtor, use Zillow, Rentometer, Facebook Marketplace to get quick ballpark rents. And ask 3 questions, right? Does this fit my buy box? Meaning, what is your criteria? What are you going after? Does it cash flow? Because if you found a property and it seemed like a really good deal, but it was going to cost you $1,000 in the hole a month, then you wouldn't be buying that property. And do I see motivation from the seller? Because if the seller is not motivated, it doesn't matter how good your negotiation skills are. They're stuck on a certain number and you're just not going to get them off. So the rule of thumb, if the numbers don't work in 5 minutes, I just say move on. Now, I'm not saying you can't get the property under contract. You can do your due diligence, so what you're doing is just finding out, okay, do I need to go ahead and put this property under contract at the price that I want as the investor? Mindset reframe. I have to know everything before I can make an offer. I think this is the biggest thing that I see people. They keep watching videos and they go to webinars and they go to, real estate networking groups, and they feel overwhelmed and they hesitate and they don't take any action. So what happens when you don't take action? We're not going to get a deal. You just need to shift your mind to say, I only need to know the few key numbers that matter. The rest I'll figure out during due diligence, right? So you just need to know average sales price, what the rehab would be, and is it going to cash flow? And that's really all you need in the beginning, right? And you'll still do your due diligence. The quick analysis is about clarity, not perfection. Know your buy box, what your criteria is. Run simple numbers, don't make it complicated, and say no fast so you can say yes to the right deal. Okay, let's get into funding. Yay! So we've talked about getting your mind right, with the talking about money. We talked about where to find deals. We talked about how to analyze deals quickly. Now we're going to talk about, well, how do you pay for them, Nancy? So first of all, I want you to start small, right? Savings, option fees. I bought a property with $100, right? I've never done a deal where it's zero, because you always have to have some money for utilities, inspections, something. But you can also use partnerships and private money lenders. There's seller financing, creative strategies that you can take property subject to the existing mortgage. So those are all strategies, right? I'm not saying learn all those strategies tonight or in the next month or whatever, but just know that if you focus on finding the right deal and you're working with someone, they can help you with the financing side of it. So we're going to call this the step-by-step funding ladder. And what does that mean exactly? Well, start where you are. So even $500 or $5,000 can get you into a deal. And I've done both, right? I've done it for $100, $500, $5,000. Yes, have I put 20, 25% down? Yes, I did do that when I first started out. The thing is, don't wait until you save all the money, because a lot of people say, well, I don't have the money. If you have $100, we can show you how to invest in real estate, right? And then climb what we call our funding ladder. So you have your money, maybe you have a small amount in savings. One of the things Kelcie did was she was able, from her former employer, she was able to borrow against her 401k, right? So you can do that. If you have a self-directed IRA, you can use that. Partnerships, one of our clients right now, she's learning all about real estate investing, and her brother, who he wants to be passive, he's going to be the money person. So it doesn't have to be you specifically. It can be a family member. Private money lenders, they're everywhere. And through our program, we actually introduce you to our network of private money lenders. Seller finance, this is where the owner carries the note. And of course, there's traditional banks and, I call them asset-based lending, where you can go and get them. But typically those loans, you're going to have to put 20, 25% down. So I say match the strategy to the deal. If you're going to wholesale it, you really got to have good negotiation skills, right? But that's low. No, you don't need any money down at all. So I guess that would be you're not buying the property though, right? You can do buy and hold, consider private money. I've bought many a property. Once I learned about private money loans, that was the ticket to scale your business. And then again, for flipping, you can use hard money lenders. There's a ton of them out there, private lenders. It's really just being referred and that kind of thing. So common mistakes beginners make. Well, they think they need 100K to start investing. And I think, Kelcie, you know that, right? That's what you thought. You thought you didn't have enough money. She said, Mom, I don't have enough money. I said, yes, you do.
Yeah.
And so we found it. We found ways that she could start investing with little to no money, right? She had to have some money, but and then ignoring partnerships or being afraid to ask for help. So this was probably when I was like growing. You can't do 20% down and buy unless you got a lot of 20% down. But when I was buying in the beginning, that's what we would do. We would save up, buy a property, save up, buy a property. And I just was like, okay, wait, I thought you were supposed to build wealth. Where's the wealth building? Because I feel like I'm always scrimping and saving to save money to buy a property, right? I felt broke all the time. So only relying on banks and getting discouraged. And so that's what happened to us. Not presenting deals clearly to lenders or partners. So just a little tip here, you can go on Bigger Pockets. They have wonderful tools to put together prospectus that make you look like a rock star when you want to present your deal to a lender. So funding isn't about your wallet, it's about how resourceful you are. So my tips and tools here are profit like a pro moment. So if you get Ken Corsini's book, I'm in chapter 12, and I literally bought a property for $5,000. I did have a partner. We owner financed the house for $50,000, and our terms were 20% down, so we were made whole. So that was no money down. it wasn't a no money down deal, but I ended up every month I get a check into my self-directed IRA for that property because we owner financed it. Build a simple pitch script. I'm working on a property that needs X. Here's the plan. Here's the return. Here's the timeline. This is for a lender so that you have to present to the lender how are they going to make money, right? If because they're making money when they loan you money, right? Track your return on investment. Show potential partners and lenders the expected return. If they see that they're not going to make any money or you don't pay your bills, you're not going to get the loan. So you have to like look at it from a lender's viewpoint. Okay, is this a good deal? And so sometimes using hard money lenders is actually a bonus because they're going to run all the numbers they're protecting their selves because they're going to be putting a lien on your property, but they want to make sure that your property doesn't exceed what the loan is. Do you get what I'm saying? And so you want to grow that funding. It's networking step by step. And as you track, as your record gets better, you move up the funding ladder because now it's phone calls for me to get lending, which is very nice. So again, mindset. I don't have enough money to invest. You feel hopeless, stuck, no deals attempted, and staying on the sidelines. And I think, Kelcie, you could probably relate to that most out of everything I've talked about tonight. So you can start where you're at and use creativity and partnerships to grow deal by deal. Funding isn't about having piles of cash. It's about starting small and using creativity and climbing the funding ladder one deal at a time. And then that deal turns over and all of that. So this is what we have for you. I'm going to go ahead and show you guys. So we weren't able to figure out the action plan, right? So we're going to email that to everybody, but you need an action plan. So what we did is we put together, based on this presentation tonight, the questions that you can ask yourself. You can fill it in. It's about, I don't know, 3 pages. It's got some information in there, and it will help you keep focused. So your next steps is that you really have to decide how many hours you can realistically commit. So our coaching students, we just say, hey, if you give us like 2 to 3 hours per week, that's good. Some of them only do 2. Kelcie, some weeks she does 3, sometimes she does 0 because she's got 2 babies. Pick your deal type and lead source. Use the worksheet to write down your goals, which is what we're going to be emailing to you. And your first deal doesn't start with perfection. It starts with one step on your personal action plan. So this is what it looks like, guys. This is what you'll get tomorrow. But in the meantime, you can follow us and connect with us on Instagram at Money Makin Mamas and Nancy Wallace-Laabs. We dropped the link in our newsletter. That's something that we just started. We have a podcast. We have a YouTube video. So just connect with us on social. We love that. And if you have questions, you can always reach out to us. And one thing that we have, if you all are ready, we created this totally free. It's a 5-day, it's a kind of an email thing, a 5-day email campaign that we give you a time audit. It goes kind of hand in hand with the action plan, how to find properties, the funding, the 6-step method that we use. So you can either visit our website at www.moneymakinmamas.com. If you can scan the QR code, it'll take you there. I don't know if it will or not. Thank you. I see we already have a new follower. Thank you. We love new followers, don't we, Kelcie?
Yes.
And on the YouTube, I'm just going to do a shout out. I'm starting to do, this week, I'm starting to do some like basic 1, 2, 3 kind of ABC, 1, 2, 3 ABC videos on real estate investing. So, all right, guys, I'm going to go to the chat here in a second, but I want to say thank you so much for your time tonight. We will be back next month. I was going to get the title. I don't remember what it is, but Steven has it up on the website, so make sure you register for that. And if you have any questions, you can always email me at Nancy@ForeclosuresDaily.com, or you can send us a direct message. But we really had fun. I know it was a lot tonight, right? And I'm kind of proud of myself because last month, if you were on, I like kind of choked up and I realized I have allergies. I never knew that I had allergies. So I have allergies. So Kelcie, do we have any questions in the chat box? Do you see any?
Yes, there's a couple.
Okay. So do you want to read them off?
All right. First one is, where can I find your other videos that would for oh my gosh, foreclosure. That's on the YouTube channel, right?
It is on the YouTube channel. So if you go to our YouTube channel, Money Making Mamas, and Foreclosures Daily. So I've done a few videos with them. So you can go Foreclosures Daily YouTube channel, just type in Foreclosures Daily and Nancy Wallace-Laabs, and it'll come up. And then you can go to Money Making Mamas, and you'll see all the videos that we have out there.
And that kind of goes with the last question really quick. Previous recordings of probate and divorce. You'll find that, and I believe the links to the divorce toolkit are on there as well.
Yes.
If not, just
No, I think you're going to have to message us. That link didn't go through. So if you're looking for the divorce toolkit or when I talk about it, either email or direct message us. Just remember, if you direct message us, sometimes we see those right away. Kelsey's better at it than I am. So
do we have a deal analyzer spreadsheet we can share?
we have one in our Ultimate Real Estate Collection. So we have some other resources on our website. The one that is free is our Burr calculator, and then we have the Ultimate Real Estate Collection that if that's something that you're interested in, it has scripts, it has 30 days to your first deal, like with a day by day by day. It has the calculator. I don't know, it has like about, I don't know, 7 or 8 things in it. So if that's something you're interested in, just email me direct or direct message me, and I will just send you the link, and then you can see if that's something that you want. But it's $27 for that thing.
Mhm.
For that thing.
Okay. Can you share advice for realtors looking to buy homes off market for cheap, but making sure they are doing everything ethically since we aren't representing the seller and making sure they understand that? Most of the time, a seller can get more on the market versus off market, but both have pros and cons. Just navigating that convo as a realtor would be helpful.
Thank you. Yes, that's a great question. And so I actually partner with realtors. So when I do my marketing from the Foreclosures Daily, so I segment the list by property value. So I'll go, okay, I'm going to market to everybody from 0 to 300,000, right? The property value. And then I partner with a realtor friend that she does the 301,000 to 499,000. That's her group. And then we have a luxury realtor that she takes it from $501,000 all the way up to, I think the last one I saw was like $4 or $5 million. So this is how they do it because they're realtors, right? And so because they market as if they were purchasing the home, okay, it's a little bit different. So when you're a realtor, there's a little bit different wording that we put in there. So we still say the same message because I'm a realtor as well. But when I send out my card to people, I just say, hey, I'm interested in 123 Main Street. If you're interested in selling, please call me. Now, this might not go over well with realtors out there, but like I just got one today, the realtor called me and she said, hey, I have this house, I'm listing it. It was under contract and now it went out. And they don't really, because my message is I'm buying it for myself, right? I'm not trying to get a listing or things like that. Now, if you are trying to buy a property for yourself, then you would do exactly what I'm doing, right? You wouldn't put in there, I'm not trying to or if this house is listed or anything like that. If you're trying to get a listing, so the luxury ones, then you're going to want to do a little bit more. So my realtor friend, she still uses the same card format that I do. She has a couple extra lines in there that she's actually, basically soliciting for a listing. And if it's already listed, please disregard. So depending on what you're trying to do, so if you're trying to just buy it for yourself, then that's one message. And if you're trying to buy it or you're trying to just get the listing and you're trying to get an appointment to go, have them hire you as the listing agent, that's a different message. Same format in terms of, using the marketing card. And the reason we do this is it has a huge open rate. And then postcard, you could do postcards. If I was just going
Okay, one more minute.
Okay. If I was just going for the listing, I would probably do a nice postcard. So.
Okay, last question. Can we partner with you?
Yes, you can. We love to partner. We love partnering because you know what? I didn't do it alone. Kelsey's not doing it alone. And the thing about us is we're very, I teach people how I teach my daughter.
Mhm.
So I don't think I
And
would steer
then
my daughter, but yes, and just again, either DM, connect with me on social media, and you can also set up, I believe, on the website, or you can email me and we can set up a Zoom call. I'm always happy to do that as well.
yes, link to the webinar, replays, all of that. I think a link will be sent
Yes.
afterwards, and again, YouTube and all that. So yes, their replays will be available.
Yes, the replay will go out. Actually, Foreclosures Daily will send that out to you, but then we are going to email everyone that showed up on the webinar tonight, and we're going to email you the form that we couldn't figure out how to give to you. So, but if you subscribe to the newsletter, you'll kind of be up to date as well. And I think that's it.
That's
So
it. That was
I'm
all
going
the
to go.
questions.
All righty. Well, hey, thanks everybody. We appreciate your time tonight. And we'll see you next month. All right.
Thank
Hey,
you.
Kelsey. Thank you. Bye bye.